Welcome back to Geek Leak. I'm Brandon Conn, and some may be wondering, why was there roughly a 1 month, 2 month break between posts? Well, the answer is simple. My brain sucks. So I had to take some time to sort that out, but depression and anxiety is a chronic condition, and one that requires constant rehabilitation involving mental exercises, mindfulness, and introspection. So I will thank any of you viewers out there for your patience, and will do what I can to keep the content consistent. Oh, yeah. That was a thing, right. On that note, while my brain was breaking, our gaming correspondent Cody Kogar was busy breaking, I don't know, some kind of bone, maybe his penis, I don't remember, but he will unfortunately be on leave until further notice. So, anyway, let's go ahead and get started with On Brand with Brandon Conn. Yeah. And in gaming and toy news, Chris Cox has been named the new CEO of Hasbro to lead the toy company after the longtime leader Brian Goldner passed away due to undisclosed causes back in October of 2021. Chris Cox proclaims himself to be a professional adult kid, which I find baffling as an amateur child adult who avoids doctors because it would mean having to call and make an appointment. Chris Cox has stated that he wants to refresh the 7-member board of shareholders to include more people with a gaming background, having been quoted in a Wall Street Journal article as saying, "I don't know if I'm going to be able to get everyone on the leadership team to play D&D with me, but I'll try." I personally wonder how long it will take for his team to say, "Couldn't this campaign have just been an email?" Cox is off to a good start. That really is an unfortunate last name. Not like a normal last name like Connecticut. Anyway, he's off to a good start because Hasbro's Avalon Hill team has announced a 3rd edition of their horror-themed board game, Betrayal at House on the Hill. The game boasts 50 brand new haunts as well as a reluctant trader option. So, I will spare you the sensation of having asked that one guy at the game shop to explain his favorite game and give you a very short and dumbed down rundown of how Betrayal at House on the Hill works. You and 2 to 5 of your friends stumble around a house, find spooky until you find that one spooky thing that turns out to be the thing that turns one of the players into the monster or the traitor. It's pretty much Cabin in the Woods on a board game. Finding out who becomes the traitor is very much luck of the draw, and to me is half the fun of the game. The reluctant traitor mechanic was explained by the product development lead Chris Nato as the option to be able to opt out of that scenario, to put the second half of the game in the hands of one of the veterans at the table in a fair way that's not going to embarrass that person or make them feel any less for being the noob at the table. Here's the thing. I will grant you that the Betrayal games are a lot easier of a sell to a more casual player than Settlers of Catan. If that upsets you, I'm not sorry. The game is the bastard love child of Monopoly and Risk, and you need to stop suggesting it when we go to your house, Dylan. But let's be real here. These kinds of board games, someone who has opted to play is either going to be patient enough to learn how to play, and are you actually taking into account a player's anxiety into building out your rules? Really? The game that requires you to actually have formed a relationship with a minimum of 2 other players and been able to convince them to play your board game fantasy of murdering them in a secluded house? This also insinuates that board game players would treat a noob badly, when I guarantee you most of the time, board game players are just excited you even said yes to playing. I think if you gave a typical board gamer the option, hey, I will either arrange consensual sexual relations with the partner of your choosing, or a consistent group of people to play board games with, they would scream, "Clickety-clack, dice over bareback!" And if you heard them say that, you know that they don't get a lot of options for consensual sexual relations. Aside from the mechanics itself, I think the other problem that I have with this is the idea behind it. Avalon Hill is just trying to get more casual gamers to play. And, you know, don't assume that I'm one of those, like, elitist board game players, like, as if you could be that thing. But sometimes streamlining rules to create a wider appeal revitalizes a dying gaming scene, or is just the right way to go in general. Sometimes. But for every D&D 5th edition, there's about 3 D&D 4th edition, if you get what I'm saying. Or for every well-intentioned game developer, there's some grinning moron asking, "Don't you people have phones?" Now we'll go ahead with our sub-segment of On Brand with "We've wound up a woo." Yeah. That's that. I have this random soundboard, and yeah, that was definitely not one I've heard before. So anyway, since Sony purchased streaming giant Crunchyroll, wow, I am still just trying to get over that. That was a thing. But anyway, let's try this again. So, since Sony purchased streaming giant Crunchyroll, this has raised awareness of the controversy of anime dub actors being some of the most underpaid talent in the voice acting industry. And, you know, some anime dubs, you can tell they were severely underpaid for it.
Give me back my husband! Just tell me, why didn't you operate on my husband?
Who are you?
Ew. But voice actor Sarah Sakura from the show Rumble Garandol and the Smite games brought up something I've touched on before. There is a lot of screaming in animes. Quote Sakura, "Additionally, voicing in anime can also be physically damaging to vocal cords." She explained DBZ, Dragon Ball Z, is a good example of an anime that puts heavy strain on their talent's voices. Even more so, actors should be given healthcare eligibility when possibly damaging themselves while working. That's the tools of their trade. She also stated that anime dub voice actors can make about $40 an hour, with no guarantee of how many hours of work. Someone could make only $40 for an anime dub gig. To many people, this may come as a surprise. After all, it's show business. Anime's popularity is projected to be close to $50 billion globally by 2030, according to globalnewswire.com. That is billion with a B, ladies and gentlemen. But it's not all that surprising, given that animators at Funimation make only $33,000 annually, according to reports at careerbliss.com. That is 1,000 with a... Oh my god, they are literally building the show for these greedy pigs, and they could make more money at a call center, ladies and gentlemen. It's astonishing to me that these animators make damn near starvation wages when anime to me is some of the most beautiful art and animation you can ever see. Full disclosure, I am only a casual watcher of anime, but you need only go to one of their conventions to see the amount of dedication that these fans have for the medium. Animators are the lifeblood of the industry. So, to recap, They are paying their animators trash and their actors trash. Their models can have a great deal of engineering costs depending on the model, but let's be real, all those different pieces of merchandise, they're probably still manufactured really cheaply in a factory that fatal workplace accidents are closer to a kindness than a tragedy for the workers. We often commodify the actors of our favorite TV shows, but in anime, it's clear that fans hardly give any consideration to those who make their favorite shows possible. And I know that I don't have much of a following at this moment. Should probably do something about those birds. Anyway, but frankly, if you're a bigger YouTuber watching this right now, I genuinely don't care if you take this topic and run with it. This thing isn't about me, obviously. Come up with a hashtag and spread the word to get people to cancel their Crunchyroll subscriptions until Sony takes the lead on paying their voice actors and their animators properly for building the empire they profit so heavily off of. I'll pitch my suggestion of hashtag crunch and roll out. Take it or whatever, but this needs to be talked about more. So this would be where we would go to our gaming segment Cheat Codes with Cody Kogar, but until Cody accepts my trial by combat, we'll go ahead and call this new tech and gaming segment Conn Action with Brandon Conn. Sometimes gamers want to harken back to the years long gone and say, I really just wish they would remake my favorite game. Not actually make any noticeable changes or a reboot, but just update it a little.
Nobody lives here alive.
That's right, gamers! The House of the Dead remake trailer dropped on Friday, March 4th for the Nintendo Switch. Now you can relive your blood-soaked arcade glory days with multiple endings, only instead of burning through an entire roll of quarters multiple times over while your stepdad tries to buy your love, you'll actually be able to buy and own it yourself. Play it as many times as you want. And, speaking of remasters, Chrono Cross Remastered plans to be released as of April 7th for the Switch and... Wait. Chrono Cross is possibly my favorite turn-based RPG of all time, based off of one of the most revolutionary text-based video games, Radical Dreamers' Le Trésor Interdit, that is the forbidden treasure in French. The story is complex but not overly abstract, and the graphics, if you do a comparison of the remaster versus the PlayStation 1 game, you can hardly tell the difference. 2 discs on a first-generation gaming platform, incredibly ahead of its time, and this remaster will include an auto-battle function, toggle monster encounters on and off, and will allow you to switch between HD and the original graphics. Nintendo! Anyway, Pathfinder Wrath of Righteous has released the first DLC on March 3rd, 2022 called The Inevitable Excess. The game is about cracks in the world forming and evil creatures stepping through and wrecking up the place. You know. Like Russia invading Ukraine. Hey Putin, you're trash! Pashul nahvoy! Aside from being a half-assed punchline and committing numerous war crimes. Since this is a show intended to focus on nerd news, we'll go ahead and focus on how this is affecting gamers. As many other companies around the world start to break ties with the piece of sukobliet, Putin, the gaming industry is beginning to follow suit. Gran Turismo 7 has been pulled from sale in Russia, so now the only way for Russian citizens to fantasize their luxury sports racing cars will be to watch oligarchs' ugly children drive through mud puddles past them. Nintendo eShop payments have also been suspended in Russia, but what I'm looking forward to is the tracksuit-clad fury that will be wrought when FPS games cut off their servers for them. That is how we will get a full-fledged uprising, comrades. Additionally, Avalanche Studios has stated they will be putting development of Stalker 2: Heart of Chernobyl on hold until, quote, after the Ukrainian victory. Although I do joke because, well, this show is intended to be mostly comedic, I will of course state emphatically that my heart goes out to Ukraine. In the United States, we can be disconnected from the rest of the world that we see this on our news feeds and TV screens, and folks can say they understand these are real people, but please do understand. If you have a friend who's Ukrainian and may or may not have family still over there fighting for their lives and country, this isn't a novelty for them, nor is it a conversational piece. You think that you don't have to say these kinds of things, but just offer a sympathetic ear if you feel close enough. But otherwise, let them process a situation that I, for one, couldn't even begin to relate to on a deep and personal level, and I imagine many of you can't either. And I will also say that if you know anyone of Russian descent, listen to what all we just covered. Do you think Putin is crying he doesn't get to play Gran Turismo 7? Never mind video games. Do you think Putin or any of his scumbag cronies are going to feel the hunger that will come from the devastation this will wreak upon their economy? There are protests happening in Russia against this war, and without getting any more political than this kind of already is, if you're American, you would not enjoy going overseas and having people judge you upon some of the actions your government has taken. Remember, as gamers and nerds, we have no borders and we all speak one language. Swearing and impotent rage and obscure references that make our work acquaintances uncomfortable. That's it for Geek Leak today. Like and subscribe to our channel and check us out on our different social media. I'm Brandon Conn, and remember, protect the healers and buff the tanks.